Have you ever noticed, the harder you try to control life, the more out of control it seems to become? Maybe you've been there, planning every detail, double-checking every outcome, holding your breath until things go your way. And yet somehow life just keeps slipping through your fingers like water. The more we grip, the more we lose our peace. I used to believe that control meant security. That if I planned enough, worked hard enough, cared deeply enough, I could protect myself from pain, disappointment, and chaos. But the truth is, that belief almost broke me. Because life, no matter how well managed, has its own rhythm. And trying to dominate that rhythm is like yelling at the ocean to stay still. It just doesn't work. What I've learned through Buddhist wisdom and through my own quiet failures is this: peace doesn't come from control. It comes from alignment, from surrendering what was never mine to carry. From breathing deeply into this moment and allowing space for life to flow, not because I forced it, but because I finally stepped out of its way. In this video, I'll share 6 deeply reflective Buddhist-inspired lessons that changed how I live, and more importantly, how I let go. These aren't just ideas. They're living insights I've tested in the messiness of real life. So if your mind has been busy, your heart exhausted, and your spirit quietly asking for a softer path, stay with me. Because what if the peace you've been chasing is waiting just beyond the need to control? Lesson 1. You don't need to understand everything, just be present. Let me ask you something quietly. When was the last time you allowed yourself to not know? We live in a world that worships answers. From a young age, we're taught to figure things out, to explain every emotion, every outcome, every silence. And when we panic, we overthink, we reach for explanations to soothe the discomfort of uncertainty. Because not knowing feels dangerous. But here's something I've discovered through experience. Sometimes you don't need to figure things out. You just need to be here. There was a time in my life when everything I thought I understood fell apart. A relationship ended abruptly. A job I loved was gone overnight. I found myself asking, why is this happening? Over and over, looking for meaning, for logic, for answers, but the answers never came. What came instead was silence. Emptiness. At first, that silence was unbearable, but slowly something began to shift. I stopped trying to decode the moment and started to just be with it. I noticed the sun on my skin during morning walks. I paid attention to my breath. I stopped reaching for reasons and started reaching inward. And in that space between needing to know and choosing to stay, I found something I didn't expect: peace. Buddhist wisdom teaches that the present moment is not just where life happens, it's where life heals. All our suffering comes from clinging to the past or fearing the future. But this moment, this breath, it's where you are safe. It's where you are whole. Even if your life doesn't make sense right now, even if the pieces aren't fitting together, this moment still offers you a place to rest. Presence is not passivity. It's not giving up. It's choosing to soften into reality even when it's uncertain. And that kind of awareness, it's powerful. So the next time you feel the urge to fix everything, solve everything, or understand what you simply cannot, pause, feel your breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Remind yourself gently it's okay not to know. Understanding might come with time, but presence is available now. Lesson 2. Not everything is yours to carry. Have you ever felt tired, not just physically, but in your soul? As if you're holding up the entire sky? Most of us do it without realizing. We carry the emotions of others, the weight of their expectations, their judgments, even their healing. We try to fix everything, support everyone, and make sure no one is ever disappointed. Somewhere along the way, we start believing it's our job to keep everything and everyone okay. But the truth is, it's not. One of the most powerful teachings I've learned, both from Buddhist thought and from my own lived experience, is this: not everything belongs to you. Some things are not yours to fix, not yours to hold, and not yours to carry any longer. There was a time when I believed that being a good person meant being endlessly available. I thought love was about sacrifice. I thought responsibility meant saying yes, even when it was slowly breaking me. But eventually I reached a quiet breaking point. My body was exhausted, my mind was foggy, my heart was heavy. And in that stillness, a simple question rose inside me: whose weight am I actually carrying? Buddhism teaches about the concept of non-attachment, not from a place of indifference, but from a place of wisdom. Letting go of what isn't yours doesn't make you selfish. It makes you sane. It makes you compassionate in a way that's sustainable. You can love someone deeply and still know where you end and they begin. You can care without controlling. You can help without absorbing. The more I practiced this, the more I realized how much energy I was wasting trying to manage the emotional climate of other people. That was never my job. My peace, my clarity, my presence, that's my responsibility. The rest is theirs. So today, I invite you to pause and ask yourself, what am I holding right now that might not be mine to carry? It might be someone else's guilt, someone else's fear, a burden you picked up long ago and forgot to set down. Whatever it is, give yourself permission to release it. You are not the solution to everyone's story. You are simply one presence among many. And when you stop carrying what was never yours, you create space for the things that truly belong in your life, like peace, lightness, and joy. Lesson 3. Control is a trap built by the ego. Let's be honest, control feels good. It gives us a sense of order, safety, even identity. If I can just manage this situation, this person, this outcome, maybe I'll finally feel okay. But what if I told you that the need to control is not really about safety? It's about ego. There was a time when I micromanaged everything, my plans, my relationships, even the way people perceived me. I called it responsibility, but beneath that polished word was fear. Fear that if I loosened my grip, everything would fall apart, and I would fall with it. Buddhist wisdom gently invites us to look beneath that surface. The Buddha often spoke about the suffering that arises when we cling to the illusion of control. And it is an illusion. We can't control the timing of life. We can't control other people's feelings or outcomes that haven't even arrived yet. But the ego doesn't like that. The ego whispers, if you let go, you'll lose everything. But ironically, the more we cling, the more we do lose. Our peace, our clarity, our sense of flow. I remember a teacher once said to me, you can't hold the steering wheel of life and also have faith that life knows where it's going. That hit me deeply, because it made me realize how much I had equated control with intelligence. But real wisdom, real strength, it isn't about gripping tighter. It's about loosening the grip with trust. Think about water in your hand. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it escapes. But if you open your palm, the water rests quietly. Control is a trap the ego builds to feel important. But surrender. Surrender is what the soul does when it's ready to grow. Ask yourself, what are you trying to force right now? What are you micromanaging that's draining you? Instead of asking, how do I make this happen? Try asking, what would happen if I softened here? That softness isn't weakness, it's awareness. And awareness gives you the power to choose whether to fight the current or float with trust. When you give up the illusion of control, you don't lose your power, you reclaim it. Lesson 4. Letting go doesn't mean giving up, it means opening up. Letting go, it sounds simple. But let's be honest, it's one of the hardest things we're ever asked to do. Maybe it's because we confuse letting go with giving up, as if surrender means failure or indifference or weakness. But in truth, letting go is one of the most courageous acts of trust a human being can make. And far from being a passive act, it is a choice to stop shrinking and start opening. There was a period in my life when I tried to hold everything together. My goals, my relationships, even my own emotions, like someone juggling glass. I thought if I just held on tighter, maybe things wouldn't fall apart. But in the process, I began to fall apart, slowly, quietly, until one day I realized I wasn't living, I was just managing. What finally shifted things for me wasn't advice or achievement, it was exhaustion. I had no strength left to hold everything anymore. And so I loosened my grip, not all at once, not dramatically, but one piece at a time. And the surprising thing, my life didn't collapse, it started to breathe. Buddhist teachings remind us that holding on creates suffering because it resists the natural flow of life. Just like a clenched fist cannot receive, a clenched heart cannot grow. Letting go in the Buddhist sense is not about apathy. It's about clarity. It's seeing what no longer serves you and gently releasing it so something new can take its place. Maybe it's an old belief. Maybe it's a dream that's expired. Maybe it's the need to be understood by someone who never will. Whatever it is, letting go is not abandoning yourself. It's coming home to yourself. Think of a river. You don't move with it by clinging to the rocks. You move by trusting its direction. Life is the same. When we stop resisting and begin to open, even the things we feared losing either return more freely or are replaced with something better suited for who we've become. So I ask you now, what have you been gripping that's actually holding you back? And what might happen if, just for today, you let it go? You might just find that in the space where something once lived, something far greater begins to grow. Lesson 5. The more you interfere, the less you flow. We all want our lives to move forward. We want progress, clarity, purpose, so we plan, we push. We tweak every detail until it feels just right. But somewhere along the way, something strange happens. We stop flowing and start forcing. And that quietly begins to wear us down. There's a big difference between participating in life and interfering with it. But the line can be hard to see, especially when our intentions are good. We want to help. We want to get it right. We want to be sure. So we overthink that conversation, we double-check that message, we replay decisions in our head until the present moment is completely buried under layers of mental noise. I've done it too many times to count. I've pushed people to respond faster, tried to fix things before they were even broken, and convinced myself that if I wasn't doing something, I was somehow failing. But you know what I discovered? The more I interfered, the more life resisted. Buddhist philosophy teaches something quietly radical. That life already knows how to unfold, and our need to control every inch of it is actually what blocks the natural rhythm. Think of a stream. When you throw rocks into it, the water becomes turbulent, murky, restless. But when you step back and remove the obstacles, it settles and finds its way forward with grace. You don't have to direct every drop. You just need to stop creating resistance. Non-interference isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing what is truly yours to do and releasing the rest. It's about trusting that some things can and should unfold without your constant supervision. It's trusting that the universe, or whatever you believe in, has a kind of intelligence that doesn't always require your involvement. So ask yourself, where in your life are you meddling out of fear? What would happen if you did your part, and then simply let go? Maybe the answer, the connection, the opportunity you've been pushing for is waiting just beyond the noise. You don't have to push every door open. Sometimes the right one swings toward you the moment you stop interfering. Lesson 6. You begin to heal the moment you stop holding it all together. There's a moment, quiet but unforgettable, when you finally admit to yourself, I can't keep holding this all by myself. It doesn't happen in front of a crowd. It doesn't come with a breakdown. Often, it shows up in the stillness, when the noise has faded and you realize how tired you are from trying to keep everything from falling apart. We wear so many masks, strong, reliable, in control, emotionally composed. And slowly we start believing that being okay means never letting anything drop. But behind that perfection is often pain. Burdens carried too long, emotions buried too deep, expectations stretched too wide. In Buddhist wisdom, healing doesn't begin with fixing. It begins with stopping. Stopping the internal struggle, the resistance, the constant performance of having it all together. I learned this during a time when I was stretched far too thin. I was helping everyone else, family, friends, colleagues, but I wasn't helping myself. I told myself I was fine until my body started whispering otherwise. Sleepless nights, constant tension, emotional numbness. It wasn't burnout. It was something deeper. I was forgetting to care for the person behind the role. The shift happened not because I worked harder, but because I paused. I gave myself permission to fall apart a little, to breathe, to ask for help. And in that small unraveling, something beautiful began to reweave. Not the polished version of myself I thought the world wanted, but the real one. Softer, honest, human. Healing is not about holding everything together. It's about allowing space for what's broken to be seen without shame. It's about releasing the pressure to be more than you are and finally resting in the truth that who you are right now is enough. So take a breath. Feel the weight you've been carrying. Then ask yourself gently, what if I didn't have to hold all of this anymore? Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is exhale. You don't have to be perfect to be at peace. You just have to stop pretending you're not tired and allow the healing to begin not by force but by surrender. And finally, we come to the conclusion that it's not through control, but through letting go that we find the peace we've been searching for. You don't have to understand everything. You don't have to be strong all the time. And you certainly don't have to hold it all together just to prove you're doing okay. The truth is, life already has its own rhythm and quiet intelligence. The problem is we interfere too much. We try to manage people, predict the future, even perfect ourselves, until there's no space left for life to simply be. But the moment you take one step back, the moment you stop pushing and trying to fix everything, something incredible begins to unfold. Life starts coming toward you, gently, naturally, without force. So if you're in a season where things feel heavy, try this. Take one full breath, feel the weight you've been carrying, and ask yourself, what if I didn't have to carry it all today? If today's message touched something inside you, even just a little release, a breath of ease, please give this video a like. It helps bring this message to someone else who may need it too. You're warmly invited to subscribe for more videos rooted in Buddhist wisdom, mindful living, and real-life healing. And I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing in your life you're finally ready to stop holding so tightly? Until next time, take care of yourself. Breathe a little deeper, walk a little softer, and let life meet you right where you are.